If you've always wanted certain enchantments but couldn't really afford to drop 40, 50, $80 on a single card, well, now you're in luck. Thanks to the Enchanted Tales slots in Wilds of Eldraine, we now have a bunch of singles now that we can get, but I recommend doing it fast before they go back up.
Do it. Do it now.
Starting with white, let's look at Greater Oromancy. Enchantment and Enchantress style decks have become very popular in the last few years, with at least three different pre-con decks being dedicated to this particular style of play. But the one thing that wrecks those strategies is having your expensive and powerful enchantments blown up by like a 2 mana spell without much thought. Enter Greater Oromancy. It's cheap to cast, it protects our enchantments, and gives all of our enchanted creatures Shroud, and this means nothing. Not even you can target those things while this thing's around. Unfortunately, this was printed originally in one of the lowest selling sets of all time, Shadowmoor, which lowered its print run and throttled the amount of these that were actually opened at that time, causing the card to balloon in price over time. As of this time last year, the card was going for nearly $60. Not exactly something I want to spend on a single Magic card, but now with this new reprint, you can get a regular printing from around $9, and then the anime version is going for around $20. Either way, you're going to get a deep discount over the prior pricing that many players were deterred from getting the original print for. If you're into enchantment decks and you don't care about targeting restrictions that this thing gives us, you would be much better served by getting a copy of this sooner than later, because this will likely start to creep back up. The other white enchantment that from this series I would recommend getting is Land Tax. Now, while playing white but you're not in green, you have trouble usually ramping. So this is our absolute non-green mana fixer that we're going to be wanting to get. But normally this thing was ranging between $30 and $40 to get a copy prior to the last couple reprints. But it was actually just reprinted in Commander Masters and the Enchanted Tales slot of this set. So the card has taken quite a tumble, making it much more affordable. So right now you can get a copy for $14, and you can get, and that gives us both variations of the Enchanted Tales, which is a little less than half of what it was going to prior to this reprinting. If the history of this card though remains the same, this dip will not last very long and it will start to go back up, so get it early if you want a copy. Moving on to blue, we're going to look at a card that I've been wanting for a long time, but I really didn't want to spend the money on because it was quite expensive, and that is Copy Enchantment. Now, I'm on the record as saying one of the things that breaks open a game of Commander is the ability to copy spells and permanents, since technically we're restricted to one copy of a card in a deck, save for the ones that have overrides like Rat Colony. So for the course here, I love Copy Enchantment. It doubles up on our enchantments in any deck that we have blue in, but it's been quite expensive because it's only been printed one time, the original Ravnica set 18 years ago. So, this has caused the card to kind of sit around that $12 to $15 mark for quite a while. But this version, as of this video, is 57 cents. That is an amazing price reduction. And it's amazing what a reprint will do for a card that's only seen one other printing. And if you run lots of enchantments in a blue based commander deck, I highly recommend getting this card. Speaking of enchantments for my blue based commander decks, Force Fruition is one of my all time favorite cards, but you might ask why? It gives opponents cards. Yes, it gives them cards, which has a few purposes that can be played in a few different decks. First and foremost, I love this card in Xyrus the Writhing Storm because when we force them to draw cards, we get snake tokens off of this. But outside of that specific commander, it's just good on its own. Every single spell an opponent casts, it's the equivalent of a mill 7. And if they're a combo player, they could easily deck themselves trying to go off. And then it's also great in a group hug deck if your goal is to share the love and give people cards. And this reprint dropped its price from around $9 about a month ago down to a much nicer 39 cents for this version. Get it, and you will not be sorry. Moving on to black, my first pick is Grave Pact. This is one of my all-time favorite enchantments in the color, and it benefits the most off of creatures dying in black. So you should see this a lot more, and it should see a lot more play now because it actually got reprinted here and in the Commander Master set. But prior to those reprints, this card has not seen an in-set reprint since 10th edition. That is a long time ago. And I don't count the pre-con reprints that it had because not everybody buys those, and even less of that anthology where it was included got bought because people already had the original pre-cons or they already had the card in general. So the price of Grave Pact has remained very high, and even now the 10th edition version really hasn't slipped all that much at $33. But here you get to pay much less as of this video. It is a much more reasonable $8 for the regular variation and $9 for the anime version featuring Sir Conrad. which is a very tempting thing for me, even though I already own a stronghold copy of the card. If you play black, you should get a copy of this card before it trends upward again. The other black Enchanted Tales card I'm recommending everyone to get their hands on is a card I already own a copy of, but it really tempts me as well to get this new copy, and that is Necropotence. Hands down, this is the best black card draw spell in the game, and it is even more powerful in Commander with the higher life totals that we have to spend on it. And if you're looking to power up your black heavy decks, this card is a must. And now it is much more affordable at $14 for a regular print, which is what I prefer in the case of the arts here, or $20 for the anime version. Compare that pricing to last year, the range of this card was between $35 and $40. This will go back up in price, especially that anime version. I think it's going to be very popular and it's going to go up. So get this now or you'll be paying much more later. Moving on to red, it's not too surprising that most of the cards in my list here are going to be red. It's one of my favorite colors, and that starts here with Aggravated Assault. This card has remained high in price because it's really only ever seen one inset printing in Onslaught, which was 20 freaking years ago. It's like, why hasn't this card ever been reprinted in a big enough quantity to do anything with? Otherwise, it's only shown up in ancillary products or as an invocation in the Amonkhet set, and those were even more rare than your standard rares. I love this card in any kind of deck that has attack triggers or beginning of combat triggers, as you're going to get multiple sets of those triggers as long as you can pay into the activation of the assault and those creatures survive combat. And a really cool trick here is you can get infinite attack phases if you pair it with Nature's Will, which also happens to be reprinted in the Enchanted Tales slots, but it's not one of my must-have recommendations. The Onslaught copy of Aggravated Assault currently sits around $34 and has not moved much even with this reprint. But instead of paying that, let's pay the current price of about $3.20 for the Enchanted Tales version. Yeah, that's about a 1/10 of the price. Sign me up and do it as fast as you can if you're playing red if you care about attacking. The next card I highly recommend snagging now, not long ago, was nearly $30. This was back in May. It was printed as a Mythic in M21, and Fiery Emancipation is a Red Mage's Dream card. Triple your damage. Those are just magic words for a Red Mage. But the price tag really sucked. Well, not anymore. Now you can get your damage tripling on for the low price of $2.80 as of this video. That's a 96% reduction in price than what it was going for in May of this year. Burn decks, Goblin decks, hell, I'm going to get a copy of it for my Locust God deck so I can triple up the damage of the insect tokens. Get it and you will not regret it. I'm starting to sense a theme here with the Enchanted Tales cards. Like many of the others in this recommendation list, Repercussion was propped up in price by only ever having one inset printing all the way back in Urza's Destiny in the late 90s. Since then, the only other printing that this card has seen was in last year's Jaya Ballard's Secret Lair, and most people don't buy those things. So both versions of this card sit around $20 or higher, and the Enchanting Tales version, $2.50. So that's another card that's going for about 1/10 of the going price of the old versions of the card, and goes great in any red burn decks that you have that want to punish creatures with burn removal. The last red card I'm going to recommendation here, you should have seen this already if you watched my video on Totentance the other day in Historic Brawl, and that is Shared Animosity. The bottom line is if you're playing any sort of deck where the creature type matters and red is in the color identity, black-red rats, black-red vampires, goblins, white-red soldiers, those are just examples, you should be playing this card because it essentially turns every attacking creature that shares a creature type with each other into a rat colony of its own, and that can become lethal really fast. And like with the Repercussion Aggravated Assault, this is another card that was only ever printed into Standard one time, and it propped the price up. The original Morningtide copy currently sits around $8. We're paying 54 cents for this version to bring it home, and the art on this one, in my opinion, is better than the original. So if you like any kind of the decks that I gave as examples, this is a great card to own. At last, we've come to green, but unlike many of the other cards, these ones remain more expensive than all the other recommendations, but they are still much cheaper than where they were at just a few weeks ago. I'm going to clump all three together because their functions are kind of in the same wheelhouse, but each does something a little different. So we have Doubling Season, Parallel Lives, and Primal Vigor. All are amazing cards for token strategies, and two of them also slot into +1/+1 counter strategies as well. Sadly, even the other reprints of Doubling Season has just left this card still very sought after, and it was still sitting around $80 just 2 months ago. Parallel Lives has never seen a reprint outside of a Judge promo from its original Innistrad printing and was at around $40 to $50 in the same time frame as that doubling season price. Primal Vigor has never been printed into any main set. It was only a Commander set print in Commander 2013, and then it was reprinted in the list and as a Secret Lair. That's it. That original C13 printing hit a 1 year high of $29 about a month ago. Now you can get these cards at a much more reasonable $40 for Doubling Season, $24 for Parallel Lives, and $4 for Primal Vigor. While still pricey, I'm going to take Doubling Season and Parallel Lives at those prices over their highs, and Primal Vigor is much more reasonable now. So those are my picks for the Enchanted Tales slot cards that I think you should buy now rather than later, because otherwise you're going to be paying a lot more for them down the line. That said, tomorrow is the end of my contest for the 500 subscriber giveaway. If you wanted to enter that, please go to the video. I'm going to have the link down in the description below to enter that contest. The rules and stuff are all in that video. And as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.